Good evening, my name is Kyle Kampsen, and welcome to the July 7th, 2018 weather briefing. I'm going to start out with the current weather conditions. Starting with the surface analysis chart, this is about 2 hours ago. You can see that there's a low pressure system in Wyoming. There's a cold front associated with this that moves from Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, all the way up into Canada. This is going to push from the west to the east into Minnesota overnight, past Grand Forks, which is the area that we are talking about, pushing that good weather that we had for the last week or so. As you can see in the high pressure systems over the Great Lakes, New York, Pennsylvania. Looking at the radar, you can see that in South Montana and the eastern part of Wyoming, there's a line of cells that are moving northeastward. This is going to move through South Dakota and North Dakota and into the Grand Forks region tonight. So that's something we're going to want to watch tonight and this morning. As these start to develop and pop off, we're going to start seeing some problems. Looking at the National Infrared Satellite, you can see the grand picture of things with that low pressure system in Wyoming, and there's another low pressure system a little south of that I didn't talk about. This really shows the development that's beginning to happen, that's going to move eastward, that we're going to have to start looking at into our region in North Dakota, eastern North Dakota, and Minnesota. All of this can be summed up with this water vapor chart that I'm showing here. You can see that this cold front that's moving through our region tonight and into tomorrow morning is pushing all the good weather. The very dry, hot weather is going eastward into Michigan, Pennsylvania, up to New York. You can see West Virginia, and Maryland feeling that as well. And then you look into Wyoming and South Dakota, and you see these storms popping up with the water vapor. Those are going to be the storms that move through our area tonight, North Dakota, and into Grand Forks, that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Here we've got an icing chart. This is for 19,000 feet. I've become really familiar with this chart as a cloud seeder in Minot, North Dakota this summer. We're seeding for hail suppression and rain enhancements. The airplane that I fly, the Cessna 340, can go all the way up to 25,000 feet, so it qualifies as a top seeder. And numerous missions I've had to look at this icing chart so that I know what the risk is, where we're going. This is about 19,000 feet. You can see that there's a 75% chance at overnight at 19,000 feet for icing. So if anybody is going to be flying tonight, they're going to want to look at this so that they know they're not going to fly through some severe icing conditions and put themselves at risk. We're showing SIGMETs in our region. These start down in Wyoming, and as we know, these are going to start moving northeastward overnight into the morning through South Dakota and North Dakota, upper Minnesota, Grand Forks being in the central area of this. Looking deeper into the convective SIGMET that's in the northern part of Wyoming, southern part of Montana, you can see that, interestingly enough, it's forecasting hail up to 1 inch and wind gusts up to 50 knots. So this doesn't necessarily forecast exactly what's going to happen in Grand Forks, but it's something to look out for as this storm system, the low pressure, and the cold front sweeps through our area, because similar things can happen in Grand Forks overnight. Onward to the forecast conditions. This 300 millibar chart at 30,000 feet shows a strong jet towards the top of the north end of Wyoming and south end of North Dakota. I think this is going to push the storms, keep them from going all the way up to the north end of North Dakota, keep them towards the south and southeast part, which will still affect Grand Forks and south Minnesota into the morning. This aviation service forecast for 3 in the morning Zulu time shows the northeast movement of these storms that we've been looking at. It's forecasting them to go up towards Bismarck and then move eastward towards Grand Forks and into northern Minnesota. So that last chart showed overnight in the region, and moving on 12 Zulu, 8 local time in Grand Forks and the northern Minnesota region. Shows that we're right in the middle of the thunderstorms as they push eastward. They're calling for about 30 to 50% scattered thunderstorms, and behind that 10 to 20%. So you can expect this into the late morning, probably up until noon. The front's pressure and weather system shows the same thing. There's a huge region that's being covered with the heavy rain as this cold front moves eastward. And then there's some trailing storms that might happen, some trailing rain as well. This shows the same thing, but a little bit later at 11 Zulu. It shows that these storms and the rain is going to keep sweeping across the northern area of the North Dakota and northern Minnesota, basically covering all of North Dakota, and Grand Forks at this specific time is being covered by that heavy thunderstorm and the heavy rain. So if you're watching this briefing and you think it's a good idea to go fly under these storms, around these storms, South Dakota, Grand Forks region, and northern Minnesota is being forecasted at 6 Zulu, which is about 1 a.m. local time, to have some low-level wind shear. So take that into account if you decide to go fly tonight. The TAP for Grand Forks shows that overnight we're going to have the thunderstorms. You can see that the ceilings are going to be low, scattered and broken 5,000 all the way throughout tomorrow. Doesn't mean you can't go fly later tomorrow, but you want to take into account. You can see that the wind shifts from 210 over the course of the day to 30, pretty steady at 7 knots as well. Visibility will be fine to go fly as well, so just make sure you're looking at the weather as you go out through your day. Thank you for watching my briefing. I hope this helped give you a better picture of the weather throughout tonight, tomorrow morning, and into tomorrow. I hope this also gave you a better scope of whether to go fly or not to go fly.